So it seems to me that a lot of these things that you're talking about, they are like actually illegal. It's not that banks and big financial institutions and whatnot, they're like skirting round the law, finding loopholes. It seems that a lot of these practices that you've been talking about are like illegal, completely. Just you should
fraud.
Yeah, they're fraud. So there should be investigations, prosecutions, and serious examination of what's going on. But obviously that's not quite the case as to what's going on, or the investigations are sort of undercovered, or they don't take place, or just whatever happens that means that these scandals as such don't become the big bombshell that it seems like they should. So to me, it looks like it's a case of actually applying the law correctly in rather than even needing to reform. Like, obviously, there's probably a lot of areas in which reform is the case, but why do you think it is that we can't even get the laws that are in place to be like correctly applied?
You're absolutely right. There is, people say, we need to change. The law is pretty robust, but it's not applied by organizations like the FCA. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, I mean, they are corrupt. I mean, I say this frequently, and I've said it to Andrew Bailey, who used to be the CEO of the FCA, who's now the chair of the Bank of England. Well, I have an example of their corruption in my HSBC story, but they don't even know what their powers are. I mean, I had a meeting with Andrew Bailey, and I said, because they didn't investigate my thing. They investigated me to find out. They said to me, if you can produce the evidence, but it's not my job or within my power to provide the evidence. Anyway, I said to him, why haven't you raided these solicitors' offices? He said, you can't raid solicitors' offices. They can. They have the powers to apply to a magistrate for an order to raid any agent of the bank, which is what solicitors are. They don't even know their own powers. And people who know finance much better than me, people like Steve Middleton, I'm in this network of campaigners against these bank frauds. They will tell you far more detailed evidence of the FCA not knowing their powers and certainly not using them. And it's the revolving door again. If you look at LinkedIn, you'll see these people. If you look at LinkedIn and put in FCA and say HSBC or Barclays or RBS, this is a revolving door. They all work. You imagine if you're working for the FCA, you're earning what, 30,000 a year, and you've been assigned to investigate, say, an HSBC problem. HSBC get on the phone and say, how much are you earning? 30,000? We're starting a new recruitment drive. We need people of, we'll pay 3 times that amount. We need people of your caliber.
Smart enterprise.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah. Oh, no. I prefer my 30,000 and I believe in justice. Doesn't happen. And that's what's going on. I mean, it's just revolving door corruption. Well, is that corruption? I don't know.
That seems like it's probably corruption, like offering someone a nice big fat pay packet to not do their job.
Well, it's
like corruption.
They're not. Well, what happened with that David Manley, the City of London Police? You see, I worked out that he was probably paid about £200,000. Chief Superintendent is a high-powered job, and I think he was on about 200,000. So how much with HSBC paying him for him to leave City Police and work for HSBC? How much must they have been paying him? Yeah, Cameron took out three days before the Brexit referendum. Cameron took out an HSBC mortgage. Shall we talk about have you got time to talk about the Director General of the SFO?
Yeah, go for it. The other thing I want to mention was sort of like whistleblower protection, but yeah, go for it.
I'll just mention this one and then we'll go on to whistleblowers. Well, I mentioned earlier that HSBC had done this deferred prosecution agreement, so they were on probation for 5 years. Now, we all know now, well, I've known all along, that they were involved in all sorts of other things during that period of 5 years. And most recently, I think the end of last year, the FinCEN files scandal was released, and there, lo and behold, HSBC were involved in money laundering for a Ponzi scheme. It was only 50 odd million, so not really very important. But when a bank enters into a deferred prosecution agreement, certainly in America, it's probably the same here as well, they appoint a monitor. A monitor is appointed to check that they are complying with the requirements of the court order. Incidentally, the bank are allowed to choose their own monitor. I mean, they have a choice of three, but so HSBC chose a company called Exeger, who incidentally were paid £200 million a year to monitor the bank. And in Europe, the person at Exeger who was responsible for monitoring HSBC in Europe was a woman called Lisa Osofsky. Lisa Osofsky she has an HSBC mortgage on a £3 million flat in London. I don't know how much the mortgage is, but that's what the flat is worth. Her husband, Mark Wasserman, works for an American law firm. They were called Sidley Austin. I think they're now just called Sidley. They did the legal work for the monitorship of the DPA. So they were earning millions. They also act for HSBC. So they probably got these Chinese walls that, one department doesn't talk to another. But what I'm saying is throughout this whole period, it seems like Exeger, now I have to be careful here because I believe Exeger probably did do their job properly and did uncover a lot of breaches of the court order, because when they presented their report to the court in America, the court refused to allow the public. Somebody made an application for this report to be released, and the court refused to allow it to be published.
Right.
Unsealed, as they call it in America. So I actually believe that Exeger probably did know about this Ponzi scheme, but they were laundering money constantly laundering money from Russia and Hong Kong, money out of China into Hong Kong. They launder money all over the world. That's what they do. That's their business. So Lisa Osofsky would have known. But the point I'm making is HSBC were released from their DPA in December. I'm going to make up the dates here because I can't remember them exactly, but suppose 16th of December, 2017, they were released from their DPA. 17th of December, 2017, the Serious Fraud Office advertised for a new Director General. The person who got the job, Lisa Osofsky, who was the monitor of HSBC in Europe, who presumably knew about all their criminality but kept her mouth shut. She started quite late in the job after having been appointed. It took a while. The reason that is the CPS in this country was prosecuting a partner of her husband's law firm for tax evasion in connection with an HSBC tax fiddle. The film things where there's this whole tax thing where you invest in a film. And I mean, I don't know the details, but there are lots of them, and many of them, there's Zeus and can't remember all the names, but a lot of those were devised by HSBC. So this HSBC devised tax fiddle, one of the partners of her law firm was being prosecuted, but suddenly the CPS dropped the investigation, the prosecution.
That's lucky.
That was lucky. So just after that, she started working at the SFO. Now, my theory, I can't prove it, but my theory is that she was bribed with that job to keep her mouth shut. She's got so much dirt on HSBC. But also, since she's been there, funnily enough, like Rolls-Royce and Unit Oil, various investigations that lead to HSBC have been dropped by the SFO.
Ooh, more luck.
Yeah, strange coincidence.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.